Can you hear me?
Yeah, I
So
can
it's
hear you, sir.
probably awesome, awesome. So I was asking, like, it's time you introduce yourself. Tell them who you are. Introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them who you are, what you do,
So,
and why today's conversation is quite important.
okay, good evening, everybody. Good. Dev watching Web3 and basically still Web2 as well, sure. And so, currently working with SUI, onboarded a lot of devs, and generally for me, SUI is the easiest way to get into blockchain, and SUI has the best features. So that's why I'll be here to talk to you guys about SUI and Move. So that's it from me, Koha.
All right, all right. So I'm very sure you guys, you should be familiar with Sui right now. They are one of the noisiest and really outspoken communities. And when I say noisiest, I'm not meaning in a bad way. I'm talking about like they know what their stuff is and they know what they do and they push it shamelessly. So that is one of the conversations we're going to have. So I know that you do a couple things in the ecosystem of Sui. You handle developer workshops and a couple other stuff. Can you tell us how what led to what is the thought process behind having a SUI hub, especially in these parts, and also how has that impacted the way your community, the SUI community moves?
So having the SUI hub in Lagos in Africa was actually, I think, one of the best things. I think it was a very good investment from the SUI Foundation to have the SUI hub here, and it's classic case really. We've seen a very very tremendous growth in our community, right? And we've also seen a very very tremendous growth in developer efforts. We have a lot of devs that can compete on the international scale, and so we have this hub where people get to come learn about blockchain development, smart contracts, DeFi, and how they can build on Sui. And it's a whole lot more stable, unlike these once in a while workshops. And so, generally, for these devs, it's like they now have the data support they need to build careers, and it's just really cool to see.
Man, that's music to my ears, man. And I think I mean, I'm very very observant, and I kind of track and follow things. So I wouldn't say I've not noticed a lot of the movements and how things are going on progressively in that space. And I'm very sure you have like a lot of people that that has really touched, especially like people building projects and people building on the sweet chain. And that leads me to my next question. I know Move is like the programming language for Sui, right? And I think most people when they think about smart contracts, they think about like um, Solidity, and I think for Solana, people still try to. I mean, Solana is Rust based, but they still think about Solidity as major. Like, oh, smart contract Solidity. What would you say about Move? How is it? Is it to learn, pick up, and the workshops you do at the hub? How is that helping?
Okay, so that's really like one of the interesting questions, really. The workshops are first things first, first things first, let's have a move. Move is extremely easy to learn. I have this controversial opinion that a lot of people might not agree with, but move is easier to learn than JavaScript. And I keep saying this, right? If you remove the part where you have to learn, say the primitives you're building with, right? The fact that you have to learn about smart contracts and how they work and all of that, the move language is actually extremely easy, right? You have just a couple of keywords, just a couple of things to really learn, and then you can just easily dive. And if you're a Rust dev, that's really good for you. You can start writing serious move in 3 days if you're a Rust dev, right? So all of these features, and then there's something about where there's no way you write move and you don't figure out that actually this language is well thought out, right? There's a lot of intentionality with building and builders. What do builders want? What are the issues that builders are faced with other smart contract programming languages and general things. So basically, it's like for example, now there's no reentrancy in Move, right? So all these issues that have compounded over time, right, have all been fixed, and so that is pretty much how we how we roll here. Move is extremely, extremely easy to build with. I know somebody that Move was his, so most of SUI Move was his first programming language, and so that is it. Sorry, I think you asked a two-phase question. So what was like the second one?
Oh yes. So the second part is like, thank you for answering the first one. Like, now you said a controversial thing about Swiss Move is easier to learn than TypeScript or JavaScript. I will not talk
Yeah,
about that because I know you. You always come up with all this parallelism that are like, what is going on? But it's fine. It's fine. Today's not the day for that. We'll take you at that. Maybe we'll come back to that later. I was more curious about you do workshops and stuff, and I'm very sure like one of the things you touch about is how can people write Move and how they can write smart contracts that they can launch on Sui. And I'm like, oh, the developer workshop, how is that helping, and how is that helping people like get on board? And if you
yeah.
can share more about that a little bit, so that people that are interested might pick up on that.
Yeah, so the workshops that we do, actually, we have like a pipeline with the workshops thing. We don't just talk about workshops because that would not cut it for devs that are actually trying to become actual builders. I mean, there's a difference between devs and actual builders. And so we do workshops all across the country, help people to start building smart contracts, client stuff, generally they are building on Sui, right? And also we run quizzes, right? So like as we run our quizzes with the workshops immediately to reinforce on what people have actually learned. And then we also now have boot camps and hackathons. At Sui Hop particularly, we run hackathons every month, and at Sui Nigeria, we run hackathons once in a while, right? And so generally, it's a thing of we've embodied a lot of devs, right? Like the numbers are looking really, really good, and this is not like just developers. People are actually building. We have consistent builders and all of that. So yeah, the workshops have been very, very helpful with getting people to start, right? You see somebody come from say Solana side of things, and they're trying to understand something, and then they learn Move, and then it's just for them to understand the other ones that they want to learn, right? So I think Move is a very, very good entry, and not something that we've seen for a lot of people. Like Move would be the best language to onboard devs into Web3 in terms of blockchain development, and the workshops have also been very, very helpful to help these devs because the language is not really that hard. So yeah.
I mean, that's music to my ears because like I can relate with that what we do at Web3 Africa as well. And one thing I feel like people should also like, if it's not really down into the cycle of like this is Web3 Africa, it's that we belong to everybody. And you see, we're having a conversation about Sui, and we brought one of the key opinion leaders about Sui to come and chat about what is going on, and also do like an introductory session with Sui. We're just starting a bit. We'll start talking about like move more into that where it's going to share slides. By the way, goodness, let me know when you want to share a slide. I'm very fine to keep. I'm learning about Sui, but let me know when you're about to share a slide so we can get into that. So about like I know you just did a conference, right? I noticed that you did like a content house thing, and I realized that when people are talking about Web3 builders, they often isolate the conversation to developers. And now this is a very interesting conference, a very huge conference with the number of attendees and everything. And you add a dedicated space for people that are not developers, but they're also in the Web3 space. What is your opinion about that? Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing with that is first things first. There's this thing I saw online where somebody was like, building is not a dev function. Building is something that anybody can do. You can take on projects as a content creator, anybody really, right? And so generally, it's a classic case of with the content house and our other initiatives that are not just for devs. The entire idea is very, very simple. Um, it's the full experience, right? Devs are going to build. We need community members that are going to share the story, right? So that is how we look at things, right? Of course, most of our efforts are actually around dev stuff and like the things that we do for devs, but really it's also we're also trying to like bring more people on board. Our content house was around creators creating about some projects that we were excited about, and so um yeah, generally it's we do events, we do other type of builder stuff, not just for devs, right? And we have, since we have a hub, it's easier to support people that way with the physical location and then help them to actually um do what exactly it is they want to do. So that is pretty much how we see things here. We're not just about like, okay, just come and build and then who gets to use it, right? The marketing is also something that you have to build. You also have to build your brand, right? And so I think creators are at the front of that, and we want to support them as much as we can.
Omar, awesome, awesome. And like, yeah, I think you guys are operating at a very close spectrum to how we think about things also right in the South African community. And like I said, we are not isolated. We belong to everyone, and I don't say no one, but we do belong to everyone really. And we define builders as everyone that participates somehow in the Web3 economy and bring value in some way, right? Brand, change, like, I feel like all those content like marketing efforts. And when you build something, you kind of need people to use the product, and you get these other people to participate in that. So that was a very interesting initiative, and I found that very impressive. Right. So let me know when you're ready to share your screen. Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, I'm actually ready to try my screen right now. So I'll
Okay. So let me set things up. All right. So I'm just gonna take off the overlay that we have. You can turn on your camera if you want to now, and I can change the layout. So share your screen, and I can add it to the stage.
great.
Okay.
My screen is shared, I think, and yeah.
Awesome. All right. So if you're just joining us, we just had a good chat about SUI and what they're doing in the community, and we brought in the best person in Nigeria. In fact, I dare say Africa, that is moving the largest mind share on SUI right now, and he's gonna do an introduction. Was that too big? Or am I right?
I make no comment.
You make no comment. All right. So mindshare is everything in Web3, man, and Sui is this guy is doing it on Sui. So, um, introduction to Sui, and this is from Goodness UKJ. So I'm just gonna mute myself now, and you can kind of take us through it. Thank you for joining the live stream, guys.
Yeah. Good day, everyone. Once again, I'm going to be walking you through some modules, more like from presentations, and we talk about SUI, how SUI looks in front of other blockchains, compare a little bit so you can see where we are going to with this. And basically, I think for once you might also, if you don't already, figure out why exactly blockchains are in the future, and SUI will be giving you that glimpse of what it means for blockchains to win. So that said, the first slide I have here is SUI 101. The audience is everybody at this point. If you're here, you're definitely crypto curious at least, so you're part of the audience. And so we'll just get started into it. So generally, I also assume that you know about blockchains already, but if you do not, blockchains are a type of distributed ledger technology. And what that means is that instead of you to have data that's stored in one place, you have data that's stored across multiple locations, and these locations are all stored the same thing in terms of the blockchain. So there's that. And then they are also immutable and transparent. So basically, immutable means that you cannot change whatever entries you put into them. Transparent means that everybody can see them. And then transactions are stored across a number of computers. Um, Blockchains unlock gaming and metaverse applications, real world assets, DeFi, and supply chains. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So, what the main deal, SUI is a high performance layer one blockchain. The best blockchain there is. I have a bounty on that if you want to debate that, number one. And number two is that SUI is the fastest blockchain that there is by user experience, right? Other blockchains will tell you that they have really good experience, and then on the front where people actually now use these chains, there will now be things like confirmation times. For example, go to exchanges, you see, let me not mention any names, but some blockchains will have really high confirmation times on exchanges, and basically everything that's happening is just between in their own system, right? So it's pretty much a classic case of SUI is actually that blockchain that scales in terms of adoption in real time, right? And so SUI is also centered across around assets and objects, and we use the Move programming language here, right? So Move is the language you're going to use to write your smart contracts, and we're going to see about that in a bit. So how is SUI different from other models, right? So SUI actually debuted this object-centric model where it's a whole lot like, I would say, OOP on the blockchain. So you have assets on the SUI blockchain, they're called objects, and every object has a type, which is basically for things like classification. Every object has an ID that's centric to itself. So basically every object has a unique ID that's not just unique across that particular type, but every other thing on the blockchain, right? So if I have a pack of bottled water, right? They are all bottled water. That's the type, and then the ID is going to be singular to one piece in the entire pack, right? And not just singular to that pack, right? Also singular to the entire blockchain. So nothing else on the blockchain would have that ID. This the model is different from account-based blockchains that you've seen with like Ethereum, right? So let's look at how Ethereum would do something like this. So first things first is that it makes sense to do things like business logic on the with a smart contract, right? That's business logic, and of course, there could be some other premises you're trying to chase. For example, there could be things like royalties on the assets, and then that makes sense. But things like transfers, there's no reason to go with smart contract. And I say that because it's just like I just think about it in real world terms. If I say I want to buy a mobile phone, it makes sense that I go do that with the business. But when I'm trying to transfer the ownership of that particular assets, right, there's no need for me to talk to the business. It is mine, right? And so that's one thing that just EVM does not get right. And so basically, that also now gives us the premise of if anything happens to smart contract, then both parties that are trying to get to transfer ownership will both lose. And so they do not really own the assets. The entire time, the business owns the assets. And when we come on the suicide, business logic makes sense for smart contracts. But then when we want to do things like around ownership, then it goes directly from the owner to the recipient, and that becomes the new owner. And so that's one really cool thing that happens on Sui: direct ownership, true ownership. Then another thing we have is the move object composability. So basically, what this is um, a case where on in Sui and move you define things according to their properties, right? So basically, this is the object here, this capybara, and then you want to define the properties of this object, and that's pretty much how you specify it on the blockchain. Then every object has an ID, give what an ID looks like, and so there will also be like the description for the objects, which is things like the type, the object ID, last transaction details, and all of that. Also, there's also like properties for that object. So you can easily like view all of that. Sorry, I'll just continue. Right, and so we have this entire system where this is the object ID, this thing you're seeing here, and it looks a whole lot like the address, right? But this is object ID, and then we have this type, and this type is pretty much for associating things that have the similar type pretty much. So when we look at this copy here, this type here, we assemble a lot of object IDs that refer to a particular object. Now, to get started on Sui, you need to get the Sui official Sui wallet, which is the Slush wallet, and you can get that from slush.app. And basically, you visit slush.app, launch the web app, or like download the app for Chrome or whatever device you're using. The nice thing about Slush is that wherever it is you are, or whatever app it is you're using, or however you want to, you get to start with a Sui wallet immediately. You can also use the web app, right? So just is available on web, and you can also like use it from your browser without having an extension, right? So that's really the cool thing about Slush wallet. So this is it, and you can see that I'm using my Google account in this case. So that's the cool thing about Slush. So you can easily download Slush and get started on Sui. Now, if you're dev, you would need to get some test tokens, of course, to test your app, and you can do this at faucet.sui.io. Now, on the Sui faucet, you get to request for test tokens, right? So, yes, I'll just open that so you can see what that looks like. So you get like it's like every other faucet, right? Pasting your address and then request for test net tokens, and then back to the slides. pretty much explore the wallet, right? You can also like one thing about software that's really really cool is the fact that you have all these DeFi opportunities and right in the wallet, so you can easily like interact with them and then also view new opportunities. I can easily tell here that Sweden has 65% APY even without having to visit the app. So there is that close integration that's with the wallet and DeFi apps that's really really cool. Then another thing you need to get is SUI CLI if you're going to build on SUI. So to install SUI CLI, you can easily if you're on Mac OS, you can easily do brew install SUI, right? I already have SUI installed, so that should not be a problem. And if you're on Windows, you can use Chocolati, right? And then do Choco install SUI. And once you've gotten your installation, you can easily just do SUI and then double version, and then you can see SUI version that you have installed, and so you can now start building immediately. So that's pretty much it. So now let's execute this command here. Let's execute this SUI client's new address command here. Right. So to do this, I'll easily just do SUI client new address, and then I have to add this key scheme. So it is ED25519, and I get to create my wallet that way. Now it just creates a wallet for me. I'll not use this wallet, so um, yeah, just an example for you to see. So there's all these other commands you can try out: SUI client transfer, SUI client call for you to try out. There are also like other basic transactions you can try out. You can also visit the SUI Explorer, the SUI Vision, the XYZ, and then check other push transactions, modules, packages, and all of that. Now, this is usually quiz time if this was an era in real life workshop, but since we're not in a real life workshop, I'm
Goodness.
going. Yeah.
So I just got prompted that in case things are tiny, you might want to zoom in or make it bigger. Someone just mentioned that in the chat.
All right. All right. All right. So sorry about that. Then so this is usually quiz time if we are physical at the hub. So if you have the opportunity to come to the hub, we run quizzes during our workshops, and so you can easily come around. So yeah, that's this for this first module. I'm just going to open a new module and then we're going to continue with that. So stop sharing my screen for now, and change the slides to get to the second module.
If you're just joining, welcome to the introduction with SUI and Move. We have Goodness here taking us through SUI. So in case you're just joining, try to retweet, share the communities that you have so that we can have more people learn about SUI and Move. Goodness, let me know when you want me to bring you up. Okay, so I don't know what's going on, but um, Goodness will join us again soon.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm actually here. So I'm trying to share a different module.
I have a couple questions myself about SUI, and I would say I have some similarity of an answer, but it's not bad to know more, right? So
Yeah, you can
I'm
ask the
keeping
questions
them. So in case you have
while
questions as well, please write them somewhere. Note them down so that after the slides and talk and showing you things, we can maybe answer questions that you have.
great. All right, so we're going to move into an introduction to Move immediately. Now, first things first is what is Move? First things first, Move is a safe and flexible programmable language for building smart
I'm
contracts
not
on.
sure I can hear you, Goodness. Maybe it's on my end, or maybe it's just me. You're
Oh,
not muted, but I can't hear you for some reason.
yeah, I guess I'll try to be more audible.
Still can't hear you. Please can you confirm if you can hear Goodness, Gen IB, please?
Waiting for confirmation. Cool. I'm waiting for your confirmation. Hello. Hi, Koha. I'm waiting for confirmation. I want to be sure everybody can hear me. All right.
Yeah, please go on. I think folks can hear you. Just it's my device. I will fix it.
All right. So, the like I said, SUI Move is a safe and flexible programming language for building smart contracts on SUI. It's a whole lot resource oriented like Rust, and you have it prevents common vulnerabilities like reentrancy. And on SUI, everything is an object, so you'll be using Move to interact with objects and update their states, create new ones, and all of that. Now, since you already have SUI installed, if you don't, please try doing that. And next thing you want to do is really create a new Move project. And how do you do that? Is SUI Move new, and then the name of the project. So in this case, the name of the project is going to be, let's say, Buyer. I don't know why I'm using that, but that's what we're going to use. So then I want to enter that direction and then open this in my IDE. So I've created a new SUI Move project. Now I'm going to walk you through the structure of a Move project. The first thing you need to know is that the sources is where you write your source code, and there are files there. So these are source files, and you write your source code there. And in tests, you're going to write your tests. Now notice that we have buyer.move here, and we have buyer underscore test.move here. So that's the convention. You have a file, and then the file name underscore test.move becomes the test file name for that particular file. Then we have move.toml for dependency configurations and all of that. So this, as you can see dependencies here. You can see depth dependencies here. So there's that. Now we also have variables, data types, and mutability. SUI also follows the same ownership model that Rust follows, right? So we have other memory safety in the language as well. Then we have data types, we have booleans, we have unsigned 8-bit and unsigned 64-bit integers, we have the addresses, then we have vectors, right? So vectors are like dynamic arrays. In Python, you call that lists, right? And then we have mutability. So basically, similar to how Rust, in Rust, all variables that are created are by default immutable. And then you add MUT to make them mutable. You have that same primitive in Move. Now, a module is basically self-contained unit of code, right? So here's how you declare a module. You come here, you say a module, say buyer here is the package name, and then let's just call this particular module seller, just for the reason. And this is how you create a module, right? And by convention, you want to declare one module per file, right? And it's just a basically a way for you to separate content. Then we have functions, and we have three types of functions. We have public functions, private functions, and entry functions. Now, for public functions, we do public fun and then the name of the function, and then the scope for this function, the public function, will be all the files and sources, right? So that will be across the entire package. So if I did a seller.move, it should be accessible from there, right? That's for public functions. But we have private functions, you just have to remove this, and this is a private function, only accessible from this particular file. Finally, we have the entry function, and that's public entry. And for this one, it's callable from PTBs. What this basically means is that in SUI, we have something called a PTB, programmable transaction block. And basically, what that essentially is a way for you to take transactions and then program them. I'm talking chaining transactions, batching transactions, and all of that. But basically, you get to do 1,024 transactions in one transaction block. And that's what PTBs allow for you to do. And entry functions are the way to go for that. This is the structure for a Move project. We have what we've seen before: test, sources, and Move automl. Um, then we have some common design patterns. Like I said before, everything on SUI is an object. So the SUI model stores data as objects. Then we have the one-time witness pattern. The one-time witness pattern is basically a way to ensure that an action has been run. So say, for example, we have a function and we want to know if that function has been run. We can easily use one-time witness pattern. Then capabilities are a way for us to control access. We'll see more about capabilities in a bit. Then some security considerations. The first one is gas optimization. So basically, on SUI we have really low gas fees, right? But You also want to be conscious about how you're getting charged for gas and pretty much effect that into how you write your code to basically save your users gas, right? And so SUI charges you two things for gas. The first one is computation, and the second one is storage. So, how much compute are you doing on chain? Then you want to probably reduce that. You want to reduce gas and how much data are you storing on chain? These two things, right? And also, we actually have walrus. So if you want to store large data, you also have a different solution for that that makes that cheap, right? So there's that. Then, the resource model actually helps block reentrancy attacks on in Move on SUI, so we don't have to worry about reentrancy. Then you can write your unit tests in your tests folder to pretty much test the functions in your smart contract. So that is it for the second one. Finally, we're going to be doing one more um, slide and then we'll be done. So I'm just going to whip that up so you can just have that immediately. So Koha, are you there?
Of course, I am. You say you want to do one more, right?
Yeah, one more. But before that, I want to like take some questions if there are any before we continue with the third one.
Oh, no questions, no questions. I think if you have questions in the audience, please drop them, write them down, or drop them in the chat so we can pick up on them very soon. But you have time. We still have time to do one more slide, and then we can properly enter the question session.
All right, so I'll just continue then, and then we'll take the questions after that. So the first thing is looking at move continued and more talk about move basically. So talk about these advanced move concepts. The first one is the object-centric global storage. Now in this case, we're talking about how everything on SUI has a unique ID, right? So there is that, and that will mean by object-centric global storage. So SUI eliminates global storage using objects with unique IDs for scalability and parallel processing. And thanks to the object-centric model, SUI is extremely fast. Then we have adjacent object IDs. Now your SUI address is and your object ID actually both 32-byte identifiers that store objects and then sorry they help identify objects. I mean, and so they would have the ID field. Particularly objects will have the ID field, but they look a lot like the account address. Then we have objects with the key ability. Now, abilities define what objects can do, and the key ability gives an object an ID, right? And that basically now means that that object can now be identified through its ID. We also have module initializers. A module initializer is basically a function that's going to run the moment you publish your contract to the blockchain. So anything that's within that function is just going to execute. And this is very useful for things like, say, for example, you have a function, right? And this function is supposed to run immediately you gets deployed, but it requires something that needs to be set up. Then you want to set up those things in the init function so that they are executed the moment you publish, and then you're now able to now call the function and it works totally fine. Then we have entry functions like we explained before, right? And they're callable in PTBs and used for atomic operations. I really like one of the coolest stuff because you're not able to think about transactions in the most optimal way and then execute them exactly how you want to. We also have the ownership model, and there are three types. So the first one is owner-only mutation, where the owner, right? The owner is the one that can make changes because he's the only owner. We also have shared objects where more than one person owns something, and so they need consensus. They need to agree to make changes to that object. And finally, we have immutable objects that cannot be changed once they are defined as immutable. So that's all this is talking about. Now, capabilities. Capabilities are basically for authorization, right? So here's how we think about capabilities. First thing is that we have an object that somebody's trying to access or a function that somebody's trying to access, right? We're going to now define a different object that whoever holds that object will be able to now use to access the corresponding object that they want to access. Say, for example, a good one for this would be keys, right? So you have a lock and you have a key, right? What you're trying to access is the lock. The key gives whoever wields it the capability to unlock the door. So that's how we think about this. And so that design is also very, very cool because it makes things more extendable and modifiable. Instead of us to hard code a shared object with addresses, and then if anything happens to that address, we can no longer do anything with it. People are now also free to do whatever they want to do with their objects. So this is how we implement capabilities. We have this admin cap, and this admin cap here is basically an admin capability. And in this new function, we're not trying to consume the details in the admin cap. All we just want to see is that they have it. So we're using the underscore here. And so once the person has that object, then they're able to call the function. We have the SUI framework. Now, the SUI framework is basically modules that have been defined for you, so you can just start building. So you have like you want to start a coin on SUI or you want to launch an NFT on SUI. Don't do that from scratch. Just use the SUI framework to easily do that and ship immediately. Then we have the standard library that contains a lot of really useful packages like vector implementation, the strings implementation, so you can easily also build further. Right. So there's that. Another really cool thing that we have is the Move package registry. Now, the Move package registry is basically our npm.js, right? So it's basically a location where you can go and view other people's code and pretty much um, view other people's code, and you also get to upload your own code there, view documentation, all of that. And now the nice thing about the Move package registry is also the fact that it's totally on chain as well. So it's all on SUI, right? So that's also something that's very, very cool. And we'll be actually be streaming this on our SUI Hub Africa page, how to use this Move package registry in a bit. So if you're free by 8 p.m., we'll be live talking about how to put your code on the Move package registry and then use it basically. We talked about tests. So this is what a SUI test here looks like. And you run your test with SUI Move tests. We talked about PCBs as well. They help you to take a lot of transactions and then put them in one block. And so basically, you're able to take a lot of transactions, do them at once, and save on whatever it is, or more so, do a transaction, execute a transaction exactly how you're thinking about it. So that's another really cool thing. So yeah, I think what we want to do now is write a sample move contract. It's a very simple thing, so you can easily see how this would work. But before that, I want to take questions so that once we're done with that, I would um, just we'll just end pretty much. So, Kawhi, please, are there any questions so I can easily answer those in real time?
No questions yet, but people are asking if the call will be recorded, and someone is asking the slides are they going to be made available, so you can answer to that one.
Yeah, so the slides I could make them available through you, so I'll just send you the links, and then you can share it with the community. Yeah. All right. So we created a project before, right? So I'm just going to open that project right now, and we'll just write something really, really basic. I'm going to clear the file so we can just start from there. And so this is basically the most basic Move project. You get this once you create a new Move project. And so what we want to now do here is module, right? To declare a new module in a new file. And then the name of the package. The name of the package is the name of the folder. So in this case, it's buyer. And so we can name this any name for the module. This is the package name once again, and then the name of the module you can do workshop. So this is the module name. Now, to declare an object, you basically use a struct. So it's public struct. The fact that there's public here it doesn't mean we have that like you can make this private. Actually, you can't. Every so is the public blockchain, so every object is public. So let's call this workshop, and that's the name of the. This is a type right now, and I can give it an ability, right? So remember that we said that by giving it the key ability, it becomes an object that has an ID. So you see that the IDE, the two the extension actually just filled that in for me already. And so another thing I need to chip in quickly is the fact that you should actually get the extension, the VS Code extension for SUI Move, right? So you can easily get that type of support. So that said, I'm just going to continue. So let's add a name and let's make this a string. Now you see that we have an error because strings are not built in, so we have to import that. And so we can easily learn about imports from there. You use the use keyword followed by the name of the package, the name of the module, and then the type. So there is that. And so now we've imported string. and then let's add a integer. So let's do age, and then let's make this a unsigned 8-bit integer, right? And so that is basically a basic object definition. Now let's declare a function. Let's create a public function around. So let's do public fun new workshop, and it should be a constructor, right? That declares a new workshop, and we'll see more things about this now. So I'm just going to let it take in the name and the age, and then let it return a workshop type. And now I can just easily instantiate the workshop, and that would pretty much fill everything. So now to get the ID, I have to get it from the chain, and I'll get this from transaction context. So I'm just going to do immutable reference to the transaction context. And so this is going to be object new, and then fixing CTX, and basically this new function, this new workshop function just creates and returns a workshop instance based off of whatever is passed into it. Right. Now, first thing is this is an object. This workshop just created right now is an object. And so whatever the output of this is, we need to basically resolve an owner for the object. So I'm just going to do that and then do a own transfer to whoever it is that called this function. So how I'll do that is work and then be equal to workshop, and then I'll just close this, and then I can do a transfer. So I want to transfer this object to um, whoever calls this function. That would be transfer and then transfer, or you can also do a public transfer, and then I'm passing the object. So the object in this case is work, and then I want to send this to the sender of transaction. So I'll get that through ctx.sender, right? And so I'll just close this off, and I'm getting an error. It says, yeah, it needs to have the stability, right? So I'm just going to get stability, and this is the most basic contract you ever write. See, let me walk you through everything that's going on here. Okay, let me quickly fix that. It says, okay, yeah, so there was a return type, but we're not returning anything. So I'm just going to remove this return type for now. Great. So now let me walk you through everything. We declare the module. Buyer here is the package name, and this is the module name. And then we have this std. Std here is the package name, and this is the standard library. And so we imported the string module and then this string type. And then we have this type we've declared here, and it has an ID, so it's an object. And then it has the storeability, so it can be stored in other objects. And so we also have this public function that creates a new workshop. And what we just did here was that it takes in the name and the age, and then we create a new instance of the workshop, and then we're transferring it to the send up transaction. Now, to build your project, you're going to run SUI MOVE build. Now, it builds, and we have a warning. Warning is that we are doing a self transfer. So I'm just going to turn off that warning. Turn off that warning quickly with this, and then I'm also going to build it again so that it gets out of the way. And so we've basically built, and everything works. So to publish this to the chain, we're going to use SUI client publish, and that publishes the contract to the chain. So yeah, you most likely want to add dash dash JSON so that you can get this in JSON. I find that more readable. But let's get the transaction digest and then open this in the SUI Explorer. So I'm just going to use SUI scan, right, to open this, and then remember to switch to mainnet or the network it is that you're using, and then I'll paste the digest in the Explorer, and that will pretty much open it. So what we're seeing here is the details of transaction. It says we published a package, which is what we did. And so transaction type here is programmable transaction, right? Because actually most transactions that you make on the user side are going to be programmable. This basically means that there are more than one transactions currently going on. And so we have the digest here for us to track transaction. We have checkpoints. On SUI, we use checkpoints, not blocks, and they work entirely differently. So there's that for you to further on reading, or maybe we'll talk about that in the future. Then we have some inputs, right? The transaction had inputs, and then you can basically see things like object changes, right? So we get this upgrade cap. The upgrade cap is for us to be able to upgrade our package, right? There's that. And then another change was that we paid for gas. So yeah, that's it about the publish. So now you've generally learned. So let's just list everything that we've done. So we did modules, we did packages, modules and packages. We did imports, we did objects, and structs. Then we did functions, and then we built, and then we published. And so that's pretty much, this is like the most basic contract you ever write, right? And so let's also like open the package, right? So this is the package, and any transactions that happen will happen inside. Like you basically be able to view them from here. And so yeah, that is it for the exercise. Koa, I am done with like the basic exercise. So if there are any questions, let me know. You said you had a question. Let me know. Let's address that. And yeah.
Okay. My question is sort of like, I know you mentioned three frameworks. Open Zeppelin and Solidity. I think it works like that. I was actually about to ask that question. That is there something like Open Solidity and Open Zeppelin in SUI, where you can just have like templates of projects that you can just import and standards like that.
Yeah, actually, Open Zeppelin recently integrated, or recently started supporting SUI, and there's that. But there's that basically. So that's the question, I think. And yeah, you can draw parallels with Open Zeppelin and the framework actually, but it's not the same thing really. So yeah.
All right, that was my question. Audience, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We can do well to pick them up. But goodness, I think that's the question I have.
All right.
Do you have any more like? Is that all the modules? Is that everything?
Those are the ones for the scope of this um session. But we do have more modules and more resources that people get to learn when they come to our workshops and at the hub and all of that.
Where can they find? Where can they find the resources? How can they join the Sui community, the Sui Hub, and all those stuff? If you can share more about that, and also you can talk about like whatever you need to talk about to what you want to share, and how they can find you yourself, so that we can round up the workshop. If there are no more questions.
All right, so the Sui Hub is at 371 Borno Way, Alagome Jiaba, right? And you can also follow at Sui Hub Africa to learn more about our programs and our activations. We do workshops across the country in universities and all of that. We also so you can also follow Sui Network NG to for more about Sui Nigeria. And for me, it's at Goody Lily. So it's at GOODYLILI, right? And so you can easily ask any questions around development on Sui. You can easily ask me those questions, right? But generally, what I advise for the most part is to follow the Sui NG and Sui Hub accounts so that you can stay updated with our programs. And so another thing is to join the Sui community, just join the Sui Discord, right? So you can go to sui.io and then join the Sui Discord. And if you want to keep building, check out the docs, right? At docs.sui.io. So those are like the tips I'll generally give. And if you generally want to like join our workshop, right? Request for a workshop and all of that, the best people to follow would be Sui Network NG and Sui Hub Africa on X. And you can always shoot me a text, right? You can always shoot me a text about whatever issues that you're having or however we can assist you personally with your development journey and whatever it is that you're building. You can always shoot me a text and we'll talk about that. So yeah.
All right. I hope you guys got that. If you can share, someone asked about the slides. I don't know if you have that publicly available for people to go through. But somebody else is also asking about like what does CTX mean, and can you explain slowly, please? That's the question in the chat. So if you want to attend to those two.
Great. So CTX is transaction context. It's basically so generally context is details you don't have but you know about, right? So with CTX, you're able to get data about a transaction when it happens, right? So for example, let's go back to the code. So for example, in this new workshop function, we have this CTX here, right?
You
And
stop sharing the slides.
oh yeah, let me share that.
Okay, if you share your screen again, I'll put it up.
Great. I'm my screen is shared. Great. So the CTX in this case now we're trying to get details of transaction. For example, we're trying to get the sender and we're trying to get an object ID from the chain, right? And CTX helps us do this because
We can
since
we can only see the stream yard. I don't know if that's intentional.
oh it's not let me see. Okay. How about now?
Okay, I can see it now. Good.
Yeah. Good. So basically, we know that the transaction is going to have an ID, and we can also access the sender of transaction, right? But we don't have it. So basically, it's our way of getting that from the chain. So basically, by adding CTXK, which we are requesting for context, and with context of the transaction, we're able to now get details about the transaction. So I hope that answers your question. It's just generally context, right? So yeah, that is it. Any other questions, Goha?
All right. He said yes. I think he got it. All right. So Ziggy, if you want to find more info, you can reach out to Goodness on at his X account, Goody Lily, join the SUI
And for the slides,
community, or
yeah,
you say what?
for the slides, I'll share them to you. Then you can share with the community.
Okay, yes. For the slides, we will get them at Web3 Africa, and we will make that available. We'll send out to our newsletter. So if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, please try to get subscribed because that's where we're going to blast it out to everyone. And on that note, thank you so much for for coming on board to the workshop, Goodness, and talking and sharing about SUI, the gospel of SUI, and move to the folks. I'm very sure we want to have a more deeper build session later on. So in case you have something like that planned, let us know so that we can put it together. So maybe to build a project and or maybe deploy something, a token, or get something that developers can actually like follow along if that is something that you have in your um, in one of the developer workshops you host. We can find a time to have that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being part of this, and yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
All right,
See.
everybody, thank you for joining. I'm very sure you learned a thing or two. We'll be sharing the slides once we have them. And also, this workshop is for everyone, right? So if you have a project that you want to showcase and you have a developer facing product, you have whatever you're building in Web3 space or whatever it is, like whatever it is that you are doing that you feel like you need to talk to and share to more people. Web3 Africa is not just a community for developers, it's not just a community for the builders that write code, essentially. It's for everyone. Reach out to us on Discord or go to our website. We have a link, and I'm also going to share that in the newsletter as well. Just fill that form, and we'll get on to you to come and host, and we'll have you on our workshop series. And then we also have office hours. We just started it last week. We'll try to do that consistently. I think it's every Wednesday. We're going to do that consistently uh, every week from now on, just to like get to understand what's going on with you guys. What are you building? What's your issues? We'll also try to see if we can share what's going on in the space. Xbox Root is trending right now in the Web3 space. That's the meta. So that's the time to find them out, and that's time to converse. We bring people up on stage. It's more like it's not a planned session. It's more like as it's going. So we'll be looking forward to have you there as well. It's just about 1 minute past 6 o'clock, and it's time to end the workshop. I'm very happy that we got to do this. I will see you guys next week for the office hours and also on the next workshop. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Bye.